Where are they getting it wrong? Where are the mistakes being made?
Not pivoting when the market makes the pivot.
It's a dead dog. This is a danger area.
So you don't have people selling a condo and then buying into another condo because of all of those condo issues.
They have to get out. Are these old buildings going to be playing the game of it's a chase to the bottom?
If you get too much of that, you're going to end up being stuck with it.
2025, entering into September, this is our look at the Fort Lauderdale market, and this is absolute essential viewing for every buyer and seller looking at the Fort Lauderdale market. My name is David Siddons. I'm president of the David Siddons Group. This is Elaine Tatum.
Hello.
We have done this dialogue so many times. Right now, we're going to dive into the Fort Lauderdale market, and we're going to give you actionable data, information, what's going on, and what we're predicting, and we're going to focus this around the waterfront market, and we're going to
family homes, waterfront market, as well as the condominium market and new development projects,
which is really
in
key.
The area. Yeah.
So, Elaine, let's start off. Why are we talking just about the waterfront market? Like, what is it about the waterfront market that is very, very specific and about Fort Lauderdale as a city?
Well, it's the segment of Fort Lauderdale that really defines Fort Lauderdale. So going through those analytics, it really leads you to what's happening in the dry lot markets as well. But if you have a healthy waterfront market, then basically in my way of thinking, the rest of the market is healthy as well. So I think that this will give everyone a good overview about what to expect. And as far as what we've achieved so far in the first half of the year in Fort Lauderdale. And it's much more targeted information versus trying to do, it's too big of a pie to eat the entire thing at once.
Yeah, I think it's good to know that everything that we try to do is actionable. It always has been, always will be. And again, there's enough data in here that you can actually take what's on this video and apply it to your personal situation, whether you're buying, selling, whether you're buying at 3 or 30. So let's start, as we always do, we break it down by price point, and I think it's important to be able to understand what the forces are at play in these different price points and why, and what the product looks like, because I know people out there might not even know Fort Lauderdale, let's say, as well as they might other neighborhoods and markets, and to them it's just another city. Let's start with a 1 to 3. I'm not even going to go up to the $1 million market, doesn't count, but $1 to $3 million. What does that market look like for waterfront property in Fort Lauderdale?
Well, we have several neighborhoods that really cater specifically to that price tier, the $1 to $3 million price tier. And that would be the Citrus Isles, the River Oaks area. So as you're going through those areas, you're going to have more narrow canals, but you can still have direct connectivity to the open waterways of Fort Lauderdale. And you can get to the intracoastal as well. So these have better price points because they're either further away from the intercoastal waterways, or they're further up the canals, or it's just in general, these neighborhoods are west of downtown Fort Lauderdale. So pricing goes down the further away from the intracoastal and the ocean that you
How
are.
long does it take you to get to the intercoastal from these areas?
I would say, depending on which area, I mean, maximum would be maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes, because on the river, which is the main access point to get to the intercoastal waterway, you have to go, you can't we call it the wake zone. You don't want to have a large wake when you're coming through, so you can't go very fast. So it's going to take you a while, but it's nice motoring. You're passing by some lovely homes.
Yeah,
and that's part of the scenic journey and the lifestyle. Yeah.
And when we're thinking about the size of lots, I'm trying to picture in my mind what a $1 to $3 million waterfront house looks like in Fort Lauderdale. But to be quite honest with you, you are one of 15 territory managers now covering across 3 counties, each person looking after a different area, a village of the tri-county area. When you're in Miami, you cannot get waterfront at $1 to $3 million. It doesn't exist. If someone calls me and says, I want to buy something on the water for $2 million, I just laugh at them. I'm like, you can't. What are you smoking?
So we actually have a really lovely listing that's been completely redone, and it's very large for the neighborhoods. You're going to get a lot of square footage around $590 a square foot. It's all been redone with impact windows, 60 feet of water behind the house, 6 bedrooms, 4 baths, and you're going to be able to enjoy that waterfront lifestyle. So you can have your boat behind the house.
6 bedrooms,
6
4
bedrooms,
bathrooms.
4 bathrooms. Yeah.
How much?
It's about $590 a square foot.
And how big is the lot?
The lot is going to be around 8,000 square feet.
But you're on the water.
You're on the water.
And how many feet on the water do you have?
60 feet.
So how big a boat can you put?
I would say it's more of a pleasure cruise. So you can have a robalo walk around or something. You can do a 30-footer, 35-footer.
Because you've got bridges to get to the bay from there?
There are no bridges that are fixed.
No fixed
bridges. So no bridges coming up your canal. But then you'll have some other more major bridges that are not fixed that will be timed and will raise up if you have something that has a fly bridge on it. But most people, if you've got a pleasure cruiser that's a lower, like cabin cruiser, yeah, it's easy.
And I often talk to clients about the new builds and the new stuff, and of course with the insurance and everything that goes with it. Once people step into the new houses, I know. Can you get anything newer in under $3 million? Is it just stuff from the?
They're
like
newer, but you're going to be You're going to get smaller square footage. So it depends. I would say in that price tier, the $1 to $3 million, you're looking more at refinished, remodeled homes versus brand new construction, based on the cost of the new construction costs right now.
Okay, so now I'm turning my attention. Obviously, we've given a bit of flavor for buyers out there looking at stuff in the 1 to 3 range. If you're a seller, what is the message for sellers for the first half of this year? How has that market been behaving? What's the dollar? And I have a few questions. What are they selling for? How healthy is the market? And where is it going? Is it going up? Is it going down? Is it just stationary?
So in the 1 to 3 million, you're around blended $800 or so a square foot across the market. The second question that you wanted to know was,
like I wanted to know, how does it compare to last year? Like, is it better? Is it worse?
So this is the big news flash. Not much has changed. Year over year, our price per square foot in all pricing tiers are within less than 1%. So the price per square foot has maintained year over year. Sales pretty much have maintained year over year as well, except in that 1 to 3 million price tier where they've dropped a little bit. And I think it's because of resistance to home ownership costs, rising interest rates, rising insurance rates that have impacted that buyer a little bit more. But basically, the news is there's really no news that's really clickbait for Fort Lauderdale right now.
The wheels aren't falling off. There's no disaster.
It's not falling off.
If you were to itemize 3 big forces that affect that market, that affect the buying appetite, what are they? What's really affecting that market?
New construction is going to be the location of where you are and the amount of water frontage that you have. And so those 3 things impact the price of the property as well as the appetite of the buyer for if they want to be in that specific neighborhood or to have that waterfront. So you're talking boaters, and boaters typically they plan their house around their boat.
So if there's an Achilles heel within that market, if you're a seller and you're having trouble selling, usually where is that problem coming from? What is it that's stopping buyers? Is
Your
it
price?
So price, and what about the amount of frontage that you have for the water? If you've got like a particularly small amount of frontage, is that part of the play?
There's going to be buyers that will want that if you're priced right. You cannot overprice. If you've only got 60 feet of water, I'll give you a story here. Harbor Beach, I just saw a brand new construction. They're asking $28 million for this property. I walked in, the garage was something I'd never seen. I could live in the garage space. It was fully finished, practically marble floors. Unbelievable. And they had every sort of hypercar designer car available there for the open house. I went to the back, I looked at the water frontage, and I went down, and the agent was telling me goodbye. And he goes, "What'd you think?" And I said, "It's great. A little bit, not enough water frontage though." And he was like, "Oh, it's just for pleasure boaters." It's going to be a challenge for him because of the amount of water frontage for a $28 million property.
Waterfront
you want a big boat back there.
When you get into the buyers who are buying at that price point, these are mortgage buyers. I take it these are mortgage-based buyers. They're borrowing.
Mortgage-based buyers in the lower tiers, that 1 to 3 and possibly the 3 to 6 million, but a lot of cash buyers in the
I was
other
going to say
tiers.
1 to 3 is quite an easy price point to come in and pay cash for. I mean, a lot of buyers I see coming in and they can drop that without too much difficulty. I think when you get to 3 to 6, and we'll get into this because this is part of the interest rate.
Well, you're seeing that more probably in Miami. I would say in Fort Lauderdale, we have always been and are kind of leaning still that way to be a primary residence, city. And so we've got people that are there for long term. We have legacy neighborhoods. We had a lot of investors come in after COVID that bought up things, but basically there is a lot of stability still within Fort Lauderdale.
I don't want to labor too much on the 1 to 3 because it's a little price point, and we like to play.
We like to play
higher
higher
up the food chain. Let's bounce into the 3 to 6 market. Tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll go about the 6 to 10, and then we'll really talk about like the stuff that we love to talk about, the $10 million plus, the plus market.
So the $3 to $6 million market is doing very well. It had the highest increases of any of the tiers for the sales in this first half of the year. So that was a really good market. A lot of that is attributed to the fact that they had the most new construction available for resale in that $3 to $6 million deal. So a lot.
What does that look
buyers,
like? Sorry, I'm just curious now. You're saying that the most amount of new construction,
right? So percentage-wise, that $1 to $3 million deal only had 7% of the active offerings were new construction, and the $3 to $6 million tier that went up, that like doubled. Just about for the amount of new construction available. And then another tier that was struggling just a little bit with longer days on the market was that $6 to $10 million because, again, lower, I'm equating it to the availability of the new construction. That was only about 7% as well. So where I'm seeing where the new construction is available, that's where we're seeing more sales activity. That's what buyers are really leaning
Buyers
into.
are focused on the newer product than the older product. And is that because of the elevations of those houses? Is that because the quality of finish is much better? Is it the floor plans, or it's just all of the above?
I think insurance costs are less. I think that you're getting a home that's built to more of the current hurricane standards, and you're correct with regard to the elevations, the seawalls. Dockage is more, is usually concrete docks and things that boaters really prefer because of their longevity. So I think that there's a lot of reasons why buyers are leaning into the new construction.
So let's play a little story here game. You've got $3 to $6 million. What are you buying? Give me maybe an example of something that you say, I would buy that, or something that did sell and you saw it and thought that was a really good property and that's a good deal. And
well, it depends on my neighborhood. So $3 to $6 million you're buying in the Los Olas Isles area. Okay. You're probably getting something maybe a little bit older in Los Olas Isles, or you're buying something around the under $5 million, maybe around $4.5 million, and you're getting ready to tear it down to build something that will be valued at around $10 million.
So paint me a picture of a house that, let's say I don't want to tear it down, and the new house conversation I like, and I want to get into that, but give me an example of something, like paint me a picture. How many square feet do I get? How big is the land? How much frontage am I getting for my boats? And kind of describe what that house is going to kind of look like, so I can get a sense of.
So blended, I can't do the calculations in my head. Maybe you can.
I can try.
The blending is about $1,100 a square foot in that $3 to $6 million range, and that's for closed sales. Okay. And in the next tier up, it's around $1,350 a square foot. So you're still able to get a really nice 4 to 5,000
square foot home.
Right.
Pretty good. 4 to 5 bedrooms.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And you're able to get something remodeled, easy to move into. Yeah.
When were those houses built? Like, are we talking about an early 2000s house? Are we talking about a 90s home?
These are like 80s and 90s.
80s and 90s. What's an 80s and 90s home look like?
They look like they need to be redone. No, they maybe they have the lower ceiling heights that need to be blown out so that you can increase that. You have to put a lot of money into that.
Yeah. Do you get the Mediterranean at that level, or do you have to go up to the 6 to 10?
We have some beautiful Mediterranean homes on the waterways of Fort Lauderdale. It's a buyer preference though. It's a design choice, and I'm finding some people are really moving away from that as a prime selection as far as their design aesthetic goes.
Is that because of the floor plan, or just because of just the general look? I'm just thinking about ceiling height and other things like that.
Think about where all of our buyers are coming from New York and that upper East Coast area, they're not used to that Mediterranean style home. And we have California buyers coming in. They'll lean into it. They understand it. That LA area, there's a lot of it. They can understand that aesthetic.
I'm thinking about that Santa Barbara area. There's some of that old Spanish style that we see in California that I guess has been around.
Texans,
it's part of there.
I mean, I am drawn to that look as well. I'm used to
You're
that.
a Texan gal,
I'm a Texan
so you get
gal.
it.
Yeah.
With that market, again, you're seeing that buying pool. I guess a lot of the sellers out there, if they're watching this, they're thinking, where's my buyer going to come from? Is it the out-of-city buyers? Are we seeing a lot of that? Are you seeing a lot of that within the buying market for Fort Lauderdale right now?
We are. It's new people coming into town for the most part. The New York, New Jersey, the Chicago area. Californians are still coming into the area. So there is still a migratory pattern into South Florida. I know the Miami area is getting a lot of the Latin buyers.
I've always traditionally felt, maybe I'm wrong in this, but I always thought you get more of the Midwesterners up in the Fort Lauderdale market. You get more of the Californians and New Yorkers as they come down into Miami. Maybe that's wrong, but I think
that they're, based on the business that they're in, we are pulling our share of that as well.
Okay, awesome. So let's jump into the next one, because now it gets more interesting as we move up and we get more expensive on the homes. And we have one that we just sold that was at the top end of this bracket, the 6 to 10. Let's really dive into that, because I think that's probably the most interesting out of all those markets.
So $6 to $10 million tier. You're talking about $1,350 a square foot, like I said, across the board for the blended closed sales. You're going to get a beautiful home in the Los Olas Isles area, but some of those are older. The one that we happened to sell was a brand new construction.
That was new,
home.
yeah.
That one was new. It was tough, and we had to have some tough, real conversations with our seller, and they played ball with us because we had the analytics to back it up.
What did we sell that for in the end? Let's just go through some of that, because that's a really good example of like what we sell. And again, if you're thinking out there, I need an agent who can really sell my home, and I need someone who knows how to work it. What did we do there?
Well, we ended up closing at $9,250,000 for this particular property. Again, new construction. It did not feel like a clinical box. It was a very warm, detailed home with beautiful finishes. It was
more custom. They really did it to a higher level.
Exactly.
How big was that house again? Just remind me of the square footage and the land size.
It was about 6,200 square feet.
Yeah.
And they had 85 feet on the water. And they were closer to the point, 9 homes off of the point, which in waterfront terms, if you're on the point, that's the prime place to be, because that's the closest access out to the open waterway. And so we were 9 homes in. So fairly well located. Nice lot with a good waterfront square footage. But we started at the aspirational price per square foot when we initially listed. And there were comps to support that. But very quickly the market changed. And we were closely monitoring it, obviously based on the listing. And with that change, we addressed it with the seller.
What did we sell dollar per square foot for in the end?
It was almost $1,500 a square foot, which ended up being the highest price per square foot for a sale recorded on the street versus for any home ever sold on this particular street in the Los Olas Isles area, with the exception of the point lots.
I'm going to put this into perspective, because those who are looking for maybe a waterfront house and they're considering South Florida, I'm going to give you some comparable stats, okay? Here's Fort Lauderdale, $1,500 a square foot for a new home. If we come across into Miami, I have another new home located actually in Coco Plum. That one was around the same kind of size, it was 6,500 square feet, okay? This house, it was more of a tropical modern look. This one sold for over $2,000 a square foot. And yours was at $1,500 a square foot. And now, comparable, we have other homes now in other markets now that are really exceeding well over $2,000 a square foot. Newer homes in Miami, in a good neighborhood, I call like a good neighborhood, a primary neighborhood, you don't get at $1,500 a square foot. So if you want a waterfront, and if you want new, and if you want 5-6 bedrooms, and you want to stay under $10 million, go to Fort Lauderdale. That's a big takeaway from that. And I think that's very important. And this is the beauty of it. We have all these neighborhoods covered. There's no prejudice, whether it's Miami or Fort Lauderdale. We don't mind which city you buy. even other markets. We have Palm Beach, we have Boca. It's more about giving you the optics across the market.
And it's being able to achieve that beautiful waterfront lifestyle.
Yeah. And there's a lot, I think, with boating. If boating's your thing, one of the things that Fort Lauderdale has, it has those hundreds of navigable miles of waterways that we don't see in Miami. And a lot of waterfront restaurants. I mean, we have some, but we've got a lot of that
stuff. It's very
stuff.
fun. I was on a 4-hour cruise just the other weekend. It was up and down the New River, which is just gorgeous. We got the river, which you also have down here in Miami. We also have the Intercoastal Waterway. There are probably, I want to say, 15 waterfront restaurants and places that you can pull off, or parks and everything that you can dock up to. And it really gives you, there's sandbars. The waterfront lifestyle,
and there's great,
really
there's great
pinnacle.
fishing. I mean, again, it's not uncommon. You go up Fort Lauderdale and you see on the lot, you've got the, you've got the barbecue on the side, and you've got the place to fillet your fish as you bring them straight off the boat. And we did a podcast with Peter Miller, who has a show on the Discovery Channel, Uncharted Waters. And again, we've learned over the years this value of the fisherman's life down in South Florida. We get it. We sell it. We know what it's like.
I've lived it.
You've lived it.
It's a great lifestyle. Yeah.
Now as we go through this, let's move into the 10 plus. Let's look at some of the warnings that we've seen in the market. Some of the things that if you are a buyer, you need to be aware of. This is where we earn our stripes. This is where we protect you from horrible, horrible mistakes. What are the mistakes that we've seen being made, that you've seen made this year up in the Fort Lauderdale waterfront market, both on the buyer and the seller side? Let's start with what we're seeing with sellers. Where are they getting it wrong? Where are the mistakes being made?
Not pivoting when the market makes the pivot, not being responsive enough, sticking with a number when the market changes. The market is dynamic. It's going to go up and it's going to go down, and hitting the market right with the right price point. And don't be afraid to make that change. So if your agents are telling you, let's stick it out, it's great to entrench yourself into a certain price. Don't stay there if the market is not responding to you.
So we always get this definition of insanity to doing the same thing over again and expecting a different result. Is the market, because the market, you said, matched it within 1% from last year, but is the market exponentially going up? Is it, if people are waiting for this sudden uptick, is that likely to happen?
No.
Or is it just overly optimistic?
So what's happening really is it's all the new construction that's happening. So right now in Harbor Beach, let's say 50% of the homes that are being offered is the active in Harbor Beach are going to be new construction homes, 2020 and newer. So when you have that kind of over $2,000 a square foot, those properties upwards of $40 million for these homes, that is a whole different ball game in that $10 million plus. This is a ball game that Fort Lauderdale is fairly new to. I would say within only the last 4 years, where we're really hitting these really high dollar. It started off with the $20 million sale, then the $30 million sale. Now a $40 million sale there's going to start occurring. So we did have one that was like a $79 million sale that was practically half of an island in the middle of
that's an exception. To me, that's the exception to the rule. And what I think that when you start to get at price points, and we see it down even within a neighborhood, even within a microcosm, when you start picking a fight with a much bigger range of competition at a much higher level, you better bring your A game. You better bring your A game, or you're going to get hammered.
Let's talk about the quality of these new builds.
Okay, let's talk about that. That's a really good point, because this is one of the things where I see it getting unstuck. Okay, I'm Miami, you're Fort Lauderdale.
I'm feeling like we're seeing there's a lot of bling is the best way I can describe it in some of these new construction homes. And to me, boxy bling, if you get too much of that, you're going to end up being stuck with it. So my warning to buyers would be beware of boxy bling.
It seems gimmicky.
It's things that people are leaning into right now, but I think that it's going to quickly become tiresome and overdone.
What's boxy bling? I mean, are we talking like over sequined baseball caps? Because I kind of think of like, what does a boxy bling look like?
They're putting these lights on the outside of homes that are like blue, and then they're transforming into
neon
the neon
nightclub.
lights.
Yeah,
neon nightclubs home. The clear garages where you can look out from your home into your garage, and your cars are all lit up. To me, that is bling. That's not, for a certain market, that has a
there's
lot
a
of
very
play,
specific
it's a
buyer
small,
who
it's a
buys
small
that.
portion of buyers that
very, very, very niche buyers buy that. And again, I don't want to say it's quick money, but there's a certain amount of the list of bling, right? The neon lights, right? The clear garages where you can see through. The 28-car garage or bigger kind of play. I got to think about white glass, like the white glass floors, the white everything. Anything that's too shiny.
That hasn't made it up to Fort Lauderdale yet, but it was.
God, I hope it doesn't.
It will probably come.
Yeah, the overly shiny. One of the issues I think we're starting to see people move away from now as well is the box, the big white box, something that silhouettes as a shoebox with more shoeboxes attached to it.
Right, and that is a lot of that is happening up in Fort Lauderdale. But we also then do have some nice, they're coastal contemporary homes.
Yeah, I like those. Those look nice. Those actually look nice.
They
houses.
look very nice. They fit the aesthetic of Fort Lauderdale and the lifestyle, and I think that we're not seeing enough of that. We're seeing people are leaning in, the developers are leaning more into the boxy bling. And I think that will, if you overdo it, like we've said.
Yeah, I think that has a shelf life. It has a very short shelf life, and that's the danger. Developers don't build any more boxy bling. Please stop doing that. What we do like, and we actually did one a few years ago, and my God, did it do well. I mean, I like the more transitional. I like the organic, the natural stones, the coral stone, the Kumaru woods, even like the tropical modern style.
It was beautiful. It was we sold it a few years ago for $19 million on one of my favorite streets in Harbor Beach, Del Lago, gorgeous. And on Del Lago right now, you can get a cleared lot right down the road from where we sold that property for $9.8 million. That's
that house that we sold. I want to say it's going to be worth 30 today. I mean,
it is.
That was a hell of a home. We know the builder, we know the architect, we know everything else in between. And actually, I think if you can get a play for a good piece of waterfront land for $9 million, and you build one, if you're going to build, that's what you build.
That's
and that
the neighborhood
to me,
to build in.
10 for the land, 10 for the house. You got a 1/3 margin. That makes sense. So that's an opportunity right there. Other dangers is what we've seen in Miami, and you alluded to this, where you see developers over asking. We have an issue in Miami with our mid-year reports across the rest of the market, Coral Gables and Pinecrest, Miami Beach. We've seen new construction product be priced higher than the top dollar per square foot, with anywhere between as much as 25 to 45% of the inventory available for sale being priced higher than the record dollar per square foot.
We're at 50% above the median price per square foot. So I wouldn't say
it's not that bad.
It's not that high above the record. So, but they are building at, I would say, $2,700 a square foot is where the new construction is.
Do you think that's sometimes over? Do you think some of that's over optimistic?
Well, what's happening is I think that you're being priced really aggressively, and then they're accepting offers for much less. So a recent sale was listed $39 million. It sold for $28 million. So
where was that house?
It was in Coral Ridge, but it was a full point lot, and it was just a fairly recent sale. You got 635 feet, I believe. This is coming off the top of my head of water frontage. It was the full end of the point lot.
It's a point lot. Any other notable stories and properties that are worth mentioning at that upper end, or should we go straight into the condo market and dive into that?
I think, if you have any questions out there from our viewership, please call David or me to ask. We'll be happy to prepare any sort of information analytics so that you can be prepared and know what to do.
We actually, before we go into the condo market, I will say this. Look, we are expecting interest rate drops in September, and one of the things that we're doing for a lot of our sellers that we've outside of this report, if you watch this, reach out to us. What we are also doing, and we're doing this now with AI, we're doing a lot of energy into the AI world, is we're creating some analytics for predictive values for your properties next year. So if your house is worth X today, we're making predictions of what it's going to be next year. This is not like Zillow. This is not a Zestimate. This is not just a straight extrapolation of the curve. We will consider within that specific market, that specific product, what's selling, how fast it's selling, how well it's selling, and where it might be going, this time next year. Because not everybody wants to sell right now. Some people are thinking, what if I wait a year? What happens then? So I think that's a really useful tool.
That's a great tool to have.
Absolutely. In the condo market, Fort Lauderdale has a whole new experience with luxury condos. And I think that, I know that you have all your notes in front of you and you deal with all of this stuff. So let's just dive into the condo market without getting too much into the weeds of the prices and going through that 1 to 3 and 3 to 5 and 3 to 6 and 6 to 10. What is the best performing resale condo in Fort Lauderdale today? What's the one that's traded the best?
It's going to be the Auberge, which is having high price per square foot, limited inventory now, and they're getting some nice sales between I would say between that $5 to $9 million range.
What's that dollar per square foot for that type of product?
For Auberge, it's going to be probably around $1,600 a square foot.
Okay, and that's the best building up in Fort Lauderdale.
I would say it's the one that's getting the most resale. But we do have the Four Seasons Fort Lauderdale that did log 2 nice sales in the first half of the year, and those were around $2,000 a square foot. But we're really having a challenge in Fort Lauderdale breaking that $6 million ceiling with the resale market. Yeah.
That's interesting. So if you bring that down to Miami, it's not about comparing Miami to Fort Lauderdale because they're two different markets, but just in terms of value, the top end of the Miami market is $6,000 a square foot. That's the Four Seasons in Surfside and some of these other huge new construction sales that are matching that $5,000 to $6,000 a square foot mark. And it's not until you get into places like Brickell do you see the $1,500 to $2,000 a square foot price point. I mean, obviously you have a little less than that too, but other markets, the beach is more, Coconut Grove is more, Sunny Isles and Aventura, they're a little different. They're a bit down. But
the condo market is not playing like the single family home waterfront market is. It's really suffering, and that's across all of the price tiers, but really just the two specifically, because those are the only two, the 1 and 3 million and the 3 to 6 million that had any activity at all in the Fort Lauderdale market.
Why is the Fort Lauderdale condo moment? This is an Instagrammable moment here. So what is the reason why the Fort Lauderdale condo market is suffering so much against the housing market?
It is suffering because of insurance rates, the HOA fees going up, the huge assessments they're being faced with, the fear of being stuck with a building that's not going to have resale, but there's tremendous competition. If you just looked at the resale numbers, you would think Fort Lauderdale's condo market is going into the tank. It's like 18% down in the $3 to $6 million tier. It's like big double-digit decreases. It's the new development. There's so much wealth migration moving to Fort Lauderdale. It's shadow wealth. You don't even know it's coming in. But when you look at the new development sales, when you have the Waldorf Astoria at 75% sold, you have the Ritz-Carlton getting ready to close, and I think they're 94% sold, and they'll be delivering soon. You have Cossamar that's delivering up in Pompano Beach. That's 100% sold out, and they're just starting their deliveries. Some of them are branded product. They're substantial, and those price points are going upwards to $9 million. So that's where the wealth is buying, the new development.
The resale market for the condos in Fort Lauderdale doesn't tell the whole story. It's the new product that is taking the front and center stage for buyers. And if you were to sum up the difference between the old and the new, apart from the obvious, the fact that one is old and one is new, how are they doing it different? What is it that's pushing these buyers to buy this new product in such great numbers and completely ignore the resale market?
Well, we don't have vertical buying right now in the condos. You don't have people selling a condo and then buying into another condo because of all of those condo issues. You have people just trying to sell and get out of that type of product in the resale market.
It's a dead dog.
It is.
So this is a danger area. If you see a resale opportunity in Fort Lauderdale and it's an older building, there's a fundamental reason that that's happening. And the buyers, the sellers of those units, they're not selling to trade up to a bigger unit that you often will see in other buildings in Miami. They're doing because they know they have to get out.
So I got a call of a lovely lady. She wanted to sell her condo and she asked for analytics, which I provided for her. She didn't like the number that I gave to her. And so we parted ways. I said, good luck, because it was not a listing that I would want to take at the price that she wanted. It was unachievable.
Yeah.
And at best, it would just be on the market for a really long time and she would have incredible frustration. And they wanted to move on to another home that they had in another state. So understanding that, people want to move on, but they have to understand the market is down for resale and you cannot have aspirational pricing. And you've got to really look at your comps. I had a gentleman call me also for another resale opportunity. And I advised him, I said, you either need to understand that you're going to have to sell for less or you're going to have to wait for the comps to come up. I said, so monitor the sales in your building. As soon as you can get me 2 comps that are up, that have an increase, we'll put your property on the market and we'll be able to do it.
So here's the situation that I see in the condo market. And I've talked about this with the virtues that in our How to Lose $1 Million in the condo market, my lessons of 20 years of doing this business, that when a building is cast as a dog, it's always a dog. And then it's just a chase to the bottom. Is that a phenomenon that you're seeing in Fort Lauderdale? Are these old buildings going to be playing the game of it's a chase to the bottom? Is there any light at the end of the tunnel? Or is it really just a dying dog?
I think it's really across the board. And the buildings that are suffering the most are the ones that have the scaffolding still up on the outside of the buildings, that are doing the dramatic renovations and things. Buyers don't like going into a situation that's a construction zone. They're hesitant to buy. They want to see the finished product. And that also translates to the new development as well. When they get their delivery, they want the full picture to be done. And I think that these buyers, they're shackled because these projects, these renovations are they're coming in phases. So they'll get finished just with one phase, right, for them to tear up the entire driveway or the garage of the building. So nothing's ever completed. And when you have a buyer, they really have to have good solid vision or a good, strong real estate mind behind them to let them know if that building is going to do well after the renovations are done.
It's a much higher risk. I think at the end of the day, there's a risk ratio return that you might say it's just not worth the risk. But looking on the positive side and moving forward with the product that you like, the new construction that you recommend, what do you recommend and why are they going to work with Elaine Tatum than just walking in and buying it? What's the story there? And again, a bit of a shameless plug, but I think it's worth for knowing that those who may not have tuned into us before need to know this stuff.
Well, why would someone want to work with me? I understand the different projects. I've been to every single sales gallery. I've done reports on every single project.
Look at
These
this.
are all
These
my
are
videos.
all the independent reviews done by Elaine Tatum through the Fort Lauderdale market to understand exactly what's going on with great peripherals. The complete market, the holistic view of everything currently for sale, not one building, but all of them.
And I've got my preferred sales team members up there, and I've already asked them the hard questions. Plus, I've already sold into many of these buildings. So I can name Celine, the W, the Ritz-Carlton. We've had transactions at Rosewood Residences, Pier 66 I've taken buyers to. We've got buyers now going to see the St. Regis and everything else.
And
so
you negotiate hard. I mean, I've seen you negotiate. You negotiate hard, and if you don't get the number, you walk away. You take them somewhere else.
I know. So, and it's knowing what somebody's really looking for, because if they're contacting us and they're saying, "Tell me about this one building," and every single time I respond to a buyer inquiry, I'm saying, "Let me know what you're looking for," because in new development, a lot of the times they don't understand the menu of what's available to them.
Yeah.
And there might be a better fit for what they're looking for. But if you call me, I will help
They're
you
looking
find
at
that
the
right
fixed
fit.
menu and you're looking at the a la carte menu.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to get them the best for what they want.
Favorite 2 buildings in Fort Lauderdale right now?
Oh my gosh, that would be the St. Regis and Andare downtown.
Okay, lovely. Right. I'm not going to say any more than that. If you want to know more about that, call Elaine. I hope you enjoyed this really in-depth look at the Fort Lauderdale market. Elaine is currently researching and looking towards the next report, the end of year report. This is a snippet. Again, hyper-specific markets need hyper-specific analysis, and your individual needs are hyper-specific because you're not buying the index, you're buying one property or selling one property. Hope you enjoyed this. See your information below. Thank you for watching, and please tune in to our other 1,000 videos covering the South Florida real estate market. And Elaine, thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.